Today I'm looking at how you can turn your iPad or your iOS device like your iPhone into a home recording studio. So in this video, I'm going to be recording some bass guitar and guitar into an audio interface that's connected to my iPad, but this will work for an iPhone as well. So you can get great quality guitar, bass guitar, vocals, or whatever type of audio recording you want using your iOS device. I'm Zane, welcome to Audio Tech TV, where it's my goal to help you conquer the tech so you can unleash your creative beast. And first, let's look at some of the gear that you're going to need to get started with. And links to all of this gear mentioned are down in the description. So here's the gear list. Of course, you'll need an iPad or an iPhone. You'll need a USB interface plus the cables for whatever instrument or microphone you might be recording. For this video, I'm using the Audient ID4 MK2, which is an iOS compatible device. And you can use whatever one you have, but not all audio interfaces are compatible with iOS, so if you are going to be purchasing one, make sure that's something that you check first. You'll also need an Apple Lightning to USB3 camera adapter, a powered USB hub, an app for recording. The Audient ID4 comes with Cubase's 3LE, which is great, but your iPad also comes with GarageBand, so you might want to start with GarageBand if you don't have another app. You're going to need some headphones or studio monitors so you can hear the music that you're making. And now there are some optional items for iPad music production, and those are an external hard drive and a MIDI controller. And these two things are optional, like I said, but they might become must-haves the more you get into iPad music production. We're not going to use either of those things in this video, but I will be covering them in other videos, so be sure to subscribe if that's something you're interested in. And the first video in this iPad music production series went over the full detail of connecting all of this stuff to your iPad. So if you want the more in-depth detail, I'll link to that video down in the description. But basically, you connect your audio interface to the powered USB hub, connect the hub to the Lightning to USB camera adapter, and then connect that to your iPad. Make sure the power's turned on your USB hub, and you should be connected. Now that it's all connected, I'm going to open the DAW app on my iPad. For this video, I'm using GarageBand. I'm going to be doing another video on Cubase, so if you're interested in that, be sure to subscribe to the channel. And while you're down there, you might as well give this video a thumbs up as well. So let's jump into GarageBand. When you open GarageBand for the first time, it may ask you for permission to access your microphone and stuff like that, so be sure you allow it, and it's likely going to look something like this when you first get in. So what we're going to want to do is create a song, but first, where do we want to create it? And you'll notice on the left-hand side here, you have your locations. If you don't see locations, then you can click the little down arrow beside it, and it's going to open up the different locations. So we have our iCloud on my iPad, and you can even look at recently deleted. And if you had an external hard drive connected, you would be able to use that as well. And I'm going to get into that in another video, like I said earlier. But for this, we're going to go with on my iPad. And you can see here we have a GarageBand for iOS folder. I'm going to click on that. And then I'm going to create a song in here. And now if you didn't have that GarageBand folder, you can always create it by clicking on the folder icon at the top. And then you would give your folder a name. So now I'm going to click on Create a Song. It's going to bring us to a screen something like this. So you have some options here for what you want to record first, your first track that you're going to be recording. And you can see you have audio recorder, so if you're recording your vocals or maybe an acoustic guitar, strings, which I think is a MIDI instrument, bass is another MIDI instrument, and guitar MIDI instrument. And you have a lot of MIDI options in there, but for this, I'm going to record my guitar into an amp, and it's going to be a bass amp. So if we just clicked on amp like this, I will click on bass up in the corner, and now it's going to give me a basic bass amp to record into. And we can adjust all of these dials on this amp just like it was a normal guitar amp. And you can see you have guitar pedals down at the bottom. You can turn those on and off by clicking on the little button. And you can even add or change these. So if you wanted to add one, you'd click in this empty spot here, and then you would select a guitar pedal from these selections down at the bottom. And you can see it's going to open another spot where you can add it. If you wanted to get rid of it, you would just click and drag it off to the side. And before you start recording, you might want to use the tuner. So if you just touch that pitchfork up in the top right corner, it opens up the tuner and you can tune your guitar that way. And now another thing you might need to do, depending on your audio interface, is change the input that you're recording. So you would click on the little guitar plugin, and then you can see channel. You can change that to whatever channel you have to input. I'm recording the bass into input 1 because I have it connected to a DI, as this bass has a bad ground and that DI gets rid of that bad ground. But when I record my guitar, I'll click and I'll be changing it to input 2. Another thing you might want to enable is the monitoring, so you can hear what you're recording while you record it. And you would just turn that on. And then you have a noise gate at the bottom. If there's a lot of noise with whatever you're recording, you can use that noise gate if you want, or you can turn it off altogether. And another thing we're going to do before we start recording is we're going to change the tempo of our song. Now what you want to do is click on the gear icon up in the top right corner. If you're on an iPhone, I think it's a wrench icon, and you can see tempo in there. I'm actually going to use 110, but if you wanted, you could just click and adjust that to whatever you wanted. And also, if you wanted, you could tap your tempo. So if you have an idea of the tempo that you have in mind, you would just tap here. And you can see it adjusts to my tapping. You could also change your time signature in here, the key signature, and things like that. And then the next thing you might want to adjust is your metronome and count in. So I like to have a count in before it starts recording. That means when I hit record, it's going to count me in before it actually starts recording. And also I'm going to put the visual count in on so I can also see it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can change the sound of your metronome. So you can have wood block, click, hi-hat, rim shot, no sound, and you can change the level of it. And that's what that sounds like. Here's the hi-hat. Here's the click. I like the wood block. So I'm going to go with the wood block, and that is all set up now. And you can see I have the metronome turned on because the metronome is blue. If yours isn't blue, you can turn it on just by touching that. So now I'm ready to hit record, and you're going to have to excuse my timing on this because while I'm doing the screen capture on here, there is some latency. So I'm going to try to get used to that latency, but we'll see what happens. So I'm just going to hit the red record button. And you can see it stopped at 8 bars. Now, if we wanted to change that, and if we want to see the clip that we just recorded, we would go over to this icon here. You can see it's like a bunch of lines. You would click on that, and here's what this sounds like. All right, my playing wasn't too far off considering the latency that I'm dealing with. Now, like I said, we stopped at 8 bars. And if we wanted to change that, you would just click the little plus sign that's at the end of the ruler there. And you can see it's set for 8 bars. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to set it for automatic. And that way you aren't limiting how long you can record for. It's just going to keep going for as long as you're recording. But if you want to record some loop style audio, then you could keep it at 8 bars or whatever length you want. And then you have that set length for all of the tracks that you're going to be recording in. So you can see we have our clip in here now. And if you just touch it and drag, you can drag it around the timeline however you want. Also, you can drag on the edges and you can shorten the clip. You can see that's shortening the clip. You can also make splits. So if I wanted to split this clip right, say at that 5 there, I would drag this here, I would tap, then click split. And now you can see these scissors, and all I have to do is just drag the scissors down. Now it's created a split. So I have 2 clips now. And say I wanted to get rid of this first part, I would just tap, delete, and you can see there's some other settings that you can do. You can turn this into a loop, and that just keeps looping this. So if you were to drag on the side, it's just going to continue dragging that loop. You could rename your clip. So I don't think I gave it a name. Yeah, it just went with clean combo. And I can just call this base 1. Done. You can copy and paste clips. So I would just click, then copy, go over here, click, paste, and you can see I have another clip in there. So I'm going to delete that clip and re-record it. I'm going to show you another way that we can record now that we're in this timeline view. So we could go back to the amp by clicking up on that amp icon, and it takes us back to the amp, and we could hit record again. But we can also record right in this timeline here. What you want to do is make sure the cursor's at the beginning or wherever you want to start recording, and then I'm going to hit the record button. All right, and it took us back to this amp. We're going to go back to the timeline, and there's our new clip that we created. And if you wanted to access more settings for this track, just sort of touch on the amp over here and then drag to the right. And you can see we have some more settings. So we could arm this track for recording or unarm it for recording, whatever we want. You can stop the monitoring for this track. You can mute it. Also up at the top, you can see there's an effects button. You click on that and you can add different effects for this track, or you can go into the mixer with that other button. And this is the mixer settings for this track. You can see the arrow points to this track, and you can see down here you have plugins and EQ. So if I wanted to add some different plugins, I would just go in here and add those. But now I'm going to record a guitar onto a second track, so you can see that we can do multi-track recording in here, and it's very easy. So what we want to do now is click on the plus sign down at the bottom left of the screen. And now we're adding another instrument. And I'm just going to add a clean guitar. So I could click on clean there instead of just clicking on the amp. So I'm going to click on clean, and here's the amp that they brought us to. I'm going to go to the guitar cable, and I need to change this to input 2 because I'm plugged into the DI on the Audient ID4. So now you can hear it. Probably out of tune, but it doesn't matter for what I'm doing here today. And I have everything all set up the same way it was before, so I'm just going to hit record now. All right, nothing too special there because the latency from this screen capture is killer, but let's go into our timeline, and you can see we now have our second audio clip here. And again, we can do the same thing like we did before. We can move it around if we wanted. If you pinch the screen in or out, it shows you more or less of the timeline. So I'm going to pinch it in so we can see our whole recording here. And we can keep adding different instruments in as we go. We can add effects. We can work with the mixer to change the volume level. As you can see, it's very basic and easy. Connecting an audio interface to your iPad gives you a home studio that you can bring anywhere. If you want more iPad music production videos, click up here. or click down here to see what YouTube recommends. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. Also subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. Thank you so much for watching. For Audio Tech TV, I'm Zane. Keep creating, and we'll talk soon.